It started in the pew. I clutched at my stomach, gathering the skirts of my velvet red dress, as if smothering an abdomen would quiet it. I moaned. I ached. My mouth was dry. How could I, a 6-year-old girl, already be a sinner? I who had barely any concept of true evil. Apparently being born was my first mistake. I wanted to quit, but my mom wouldn't let me, so I went to Mass every Sunday, followed by catechism class, as I prepared for my first communion, then my confirmation. All us girls in white gowns and gold crosses like little virgins marching into fire. On my 18th birthday, I took off my gold cross and replaced it with a diamond pendant. The diamond cut from my mother's engagement ring for my father. He was dead now, and though my mother hated him, she loved me enough to leave me this one piece of him to cherish. As I got older, I was often confronted with the fact that I was not unique in my hatred of the Catholic Church. There were my fellow ex-Catholics, of course, but then there were people who hated them even more than we did. The Protestants during the Reformation in 16th century England, Americans in the 20th century against Irish and Italian immigrants, the Republican Party, and frickin' JFK. I was beginning to reconsider Catholicism, or at least the idea of Catholicism, because to me, anything that was hated was inherently interesting. Classic Aquarius. A quick search confirmed that the Catholics loved the macabre. In my small Connecticut town, it came out in the smoke of incense and a few words in Latin. Ashes on my forehead and a sprinkled holy water on my wrist. But in medieval England, it had been the crown of thorns on Jesus' head, the robes and trinkets of the dead, all imbued with supernatural power because they had been touched by someone, or in fact had been someone who had been touched by God. During the Black Plague, kings fought over the skulls of saints, thinking that these bones would spare them from death. Relics brought miracles. Miracles brought peace. Peace made you forget. It was so dark, so witchy, so goth. Perhaps there was something to love. When the Pope died after meeting J.D. Vance, I knew that evil was real. Shortly after, the Vatican selected Chicago native Robert Francis Prevost to succeed him, and I knew that if God existed, she loved hot dogs with chili, onions, and mustard, and didn't need napkins to clean herself up. Go Sox. Angered by not being selected to be the next pope and scared to death of being tied to sex crimes against children, President Trump began 2026 with a sting operation to kidnap the president of Venezuela, and then quickly followed that up by bombing a girls' school in Iran. Then, like divine intervention, Pope Leo entered the chat. God does not bless any conflict, he said. Anyone who is a disciple of Christ, the Prince of Peace, is never on the side of those who once wielded the sword and who today drop bombs. Was I finally starting to believe? I went to the library and picked up any books that I could find on the history of the Catholic Church, its ties to magic, and its power as a political agent. On any odd 3-day weekend, I went driving through colonial America, searching for scraps. New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Salem, Roanoke, Cape Cod. Rumors emerged of water turned to medicine, of men turned to swine, of untimely deaths at just the right time, pieces of Latin and a woman's touch. Like all magic, it only takes a remnant to burst into a flame. I repeated the words like song lyrics, hoping to notice a change in my world. Nothing came. I had recently started dating this guy who wasn't ugly, but wasn't handsome either, who had expensive taste and a healthy appetite. He was a finance lawyer, and I could tell from the first date that this wasn't going to be anything more than caviar and I was fine with it, really, until one day we went out dancing, and he grabbed my breast through my designer dress, and I slapped him and pushed out onto the street. What did I do? Don't be an idiot. I'm sorry, okay? I got carried away. Vas esta hoste doceri. What? Nothing, I'm going home. Let me take you home. Fuck off. Come on. Let me make it right. I should have said no, but the buzz of multiple cosmos made me waver, and I decided then and there that I'd be the one to be the ghost. Then it was 4 a.m., and while I really didn't want him to sleep over, he insisted. So as he snored, I lit a candle that I had picked out outside of Salem. And I repeated those words that I had found on a dilapidated gravestone outside of Boston. Vas esta hoste doceri. One should learn even from one's enemies. It was a line from Ovid, nothing special, but the words on my lips were better than nothing, and the chant mixed with the sweet smell of the candle helped me to fall asleep. When I woke up, he was gone. I took a shower, I made a cup of coffee, and I checked my phone to see if he had texted me before he left. Nothing. Fucking asshole. I noticed that my earrings were missing, so I went searching in my apartment and found one gold hoop on the couch, a pearl charm by my cat's water fountain, the other hoop under my blankets, and the final pearl charm tucked under my pillow. Apparently, I was no princess. I started to strip the bed to rid myself of the memory of him when I found a gold ring with a ruby cut into the shape of a heart, small daggers etched on either side. Could it be his? A few weeks went by and I started dating somebody else, the ruby heart in a dish on my desk. My cat had become obsessed with it, knocking it to the floor, chasing it through the hall, dragging it under the bed. Once, I almost thought I heard it whimpering. But I had been tired, looking up research for my next road trip. Memorial Day was around the corner and I had some new leads around Boston. New guy wanted to take me to a rooftop party, but I had already booked my hotel, and finding out the ties between witches and the Catholic Church was far more interesting. So I drove and drove, listening to Rosalia's new album, the one where every song is dedicated to a saint, as her voice crossed over 13 languages and my grandmother's rosary hung from the center console. I felt the spirits within me trembling, rocking, begging, breaking free. The same questions kept coming up. Why was the Catholic Church so intent on destroying witches? Was it just me, or were they not simply different versions of the same thing? The chanting, the rituals, the idea that an item could be made sacred by the touch of a right hand. If Christian saints could make things holy, then why not secular women? I was in the basement of a cathedral that had emailed me back saying that I could look at their registries from the 1600s when I received a text from New Guy. "When are you coming back?" it read. "I miss my toy." The following weekend, I let him apologize with theater tickets and fancy dinner. He was handsome and charming, enough that I let him come upstairs. After, we smoked a joint and I lit a scent of incense to cover the smell. Then I hopped in the shower and repeated the words I had seen that weekend. Si flumina nimen habetis, qua nimium plaqui, perde flumina. If you have divinity, destroy my shape by changing it. For a dead language, Latin felt so alive. When I came out, I found a note on the bed and a silver necklace that consisted of a large pearl surrounded by tiny diamonds sparkling in the candlelight. The note was hurried and hard to read, but it read, "Had a great time. Hope to see you." And that was all. I looked at the necklace again and could swear I saw a grimace in its reflection, but I felt my lips going up into a smile. I placed it in the dish with the ring. My research began to consume me, so much so that binging Pope Leo's tweets became my favorite pastime. The fact that the President of the United States and the Holy Father were in a public feud and that I was rooting for the Pope proved that we had crossed into an alternate timeline. "You leave the Pope alone," I shouted at my phone as JD Vance essentially told the Pope to stay in his own lane, i.e. to stop commenting on the morality of Trump's choices. As if unsolicited commentary on other people's morality wasn't the Catholic Church's thing. I stayed up most nights, gazing into my computer screen, the little dish by my side. Please, please let me out. Please, I'll do anything. I almost thought I heard someone say. Yeah, what he said. I spilled the jewelry onto the desk, and for the first time since I found them, I looked into the corners, the cracks. The center of the ruby blinked. I threw it aside. Please. I took the necklace into my hand, and the diamonds sparkled like 1,000 winks at once. Drew? I put it onto the desk, and I picked up the ring from the floor. I felt a warm pulse throbbing against the lines of my palm, slow at first and then quickening. Anthony? Holy shit. Against my better judgment, I put them into a jewelry box that I had specifically commissioned to take care of all the jewelry I'd collected over the years. There was the diamond that was my mother's, the gold cross my father gave me at my first communion, the rings, necklaces, and bracelets that my ex gifted me after each fight, and the blue lace agate that James gave me in London after we... My search immediately shifted. Someone, either a priest or a witch, had to know what I had done. I went to Etsy. I sent messages asking for help, but everybody had a fee and nobody had any answers. I wanted to call my mom, but I couldn't show her what I had become. I kept looking, kept shooing my cat away from the jewelry box, kept driving to little towns in New England searching for clues. I deleted my dating apps and turned down every guy who asked me out because I had a moral imperative to take myself out of the dating pool, no matter how dirty it was. It was approaching Labor Day, and I began taking the pieces of jewelry out to get a taste of the world that they had once been a part of. Anthony loved the park, so I wore him while I climbed trees. Drew enjoyed the water, so I took him for ice cream at the pier. But it was the blue lace agate, James's ring, that called to me that warm summer night as I sat at my favorite hotel bar in New York City. "Nice ring," I heard somebody say in a deep voice with an English accent. "Now where does one get something like this? It's one of a kind, quite like you." "What are you doing here?" "Looking for you." James sat down next to me. 2 hours, countless apologies, and several pink martinis later, we were kissing against the velvet curtains, against the walls of my favorite bar where I'd come to be alone, but instead found him. "I'd love to take you home, darling." I'm on a break from dating. Who said anything about dating? It all came back. Hour-long phone calls, pictures of dinner, looking for jobs in London. How he told me he loved me, gave me this ring, and asked for me to wait until he was ready, then vanished. How many times had I cursed his name? I touched the rosary in my purse as I looked into his light blue eyes. For you, I could make an exception.